It's Super Bowl week, but that doesn't mean it's not time for a big board draft. We're going to hop into the world of pre-NFL draft best ball once again, looking at the rookies, looking at the guys who we think are going to be moving. Guys like Cooper Kupp, apparently he's going to get traded. Nobody's going to want to trade for him, though, so probably get released. That's what we're talking about today. Let's get into it. Of course, all in a draft room here. You can see me picking in the 4-hole. Let me try to make this window a little bigger because I don't have the little scroll going today. Basically, right now, kind of a no news window besides some of those random things. Cooper Kupp giving his farewell statement. A lot more news in the NBA. Of course, we talk about every day in the Splash Play NBA channel. Let's hit a draft here, see what we can get going. I'm about 11 drafts in the big board right now. Only have done one on stream here as we kind of wait to figure out what the content outlay for the year is going to be based on our deal with Underdog. But as of right now, I feel like my main observation for the big board, and this is maybe not the most fun big board take, I really think the rookies are way overdrafted in the big board. I think that people are kind of missing the plot with some of the ADPs this year for those guys. We'll talk about that as we go. I'm in the 4-hole here. Guys we have on the board, Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua, at this point with no Cooper Kupp, feels like that wasn't necessarily fully baked into the ADP. I don't think it'd be crazy to take him here. Starting with an RB, not something I mind either. But look, we got the man the thumbnail. Let's go Puka Nacua here. I'm probably taking more Puka than I should at this stage of things. He's honestly priced a little bit higher than I think I thought he would be in my head. But at the 4 spot here, he's on the thumbnail. Cooper Kupp's getting traded or more likely released. We got Puka Nacua in the 4-hole to start things off. And I would say for the Rams, there are some points of uncertainty. Matthew Stafford, his status of the Rams, unclear right now. With Kupp being forced out, kind of makes you think that maybe they're looking at a little bit of a soft rebuild. That said, down the home stretch, Stafford didn't target Kupp that well either. So whatever really, unique connection they may have had, a little bit frayed down the home stretch there with Kupp's maybe not being as good, maybe the connection not being as good, whatever you want to read into there. But I would say if I were going to try to read the tea leaves, and a big part of these pre-draft processes, pre-free agency process for these teams is trying to read how the team motivations are. I think that we're good with Puka. I think we're probably good with Kyren Williams right now. I'm not sold that we're good with Stafford being the Rams QB. I'm obviously not sold that we're good with Cooper Kupp being a Rams wide receiver. But I would say for Kupp, I think, and I was saying this on Twitter to our guys, Tyler and Brian, really think that to be Cooper Kupp, no matter where he goes, is going to have a better situation than he had at the end of last year. People are just going to think, oh, he's washed up, he's done, whatever. In reality, he was certainly playing like an older player in terms of not being that good in the tail end of last year. But Puka Nacua was also so good, was so heavily featured. Clearly, they, didn't feel the need to go to Kupp as much, / Kupp couldn't create the separation to get there. From where I sit with Cooper Kupp right now, I'm not thinking that he's going to be in the same situation when he gets traded for by a new team, is approaching him with those rose-colored glasses, viewing him as like he's the final piece we need. If you're, I don't know, even he would say that'd be the case for if you're the Patriots and you're like, oh, finally another great white slot receiver to plug in here. Or if you're whatever other team out there, a championship contender, if you're maybe a not sharp team like the Cowboys, them thinking that he's a way to improve the passing offense is going to be, I'm sure, much worse with the changing and coaching staff there. No matter what you're getting for Cooper Kupp, it's going to be a team that's motivated to give him the ball and view him through probably the prism of what previous Cooper Kupp was. The main thing, too, with Cooper Kupp is like even during his year for fantasy where he was like the must-have, getting 10, 15 targets a game, 10, 15 catches a game at like a 10K salary, he was still a negative EPA receiver. Like he was still getting there through largely volume as opposed to some crazy level of efficiency. So really, you just want him to go somewhere and get volume again. And like I think people sometimes conflate like, oh, is this guy washed up? Like that doesn't matter as much if he's going to go somewhere and a team's going to treat him like this valued commodity. And I think for Cooper Kupp, he's probably going to get treated like a valued commodity coming in. But that's how I feel about Kupp right now. And that's really the only news we have to talk about here besides some of the NFL draft whispers. Shout out to the chat. So we got Terrence here. We got Bindles here. That was the only one who thought that about the rookie RBs. Honestly, out of them other than Jeanty, who I see landing until I see some landing spots. Yeah, I mean, look, Jeanty, I think, is going to go in the first round. It seems like, some of the mock drafts out there putting him at number 6 to the Jets, which I think is just foolish and somebody not doing prep work. I was saying this actually in the Discord yesterday, which if you are a paying member, make sure you sync your YouTube channel to your Discord. It's really one of the biggest perks I have because like I don't post on Twitter anymore. Like I don't want to be a part of the weird Nazi stuff. I'm sorry if that's your vibe. Not really though. Like I don't want to be there. So everything I have that's like a take on football, I'm not putting on stream. I'm putting in the Discord. It was talking there a little bit how like I really feel like this year. And it might just be me being at kind of that middle point of the Dunning-Kruger effect where I think I'm much smarter than I am, even though I would hope the results show for themselves. I think this year, rookie ADPs to me just don't feel right for most of the guys. Like, I think the only fair ones really, Jeanty, I think is fair, even though you're kind of going into the RB version of a Marvin Harrison, or if you want to compare, apples to apples, Bijan Robinson's rookie year, who's probably going a little bit too high. For Jeanty, though, like, I think he gets the draft capital to make it matter. For guys like Marion Hampton, guys like the Ohio State backs, I just don't know that they actually play this year. And that's sort of the main thing that I'm seeing for a lot of the rookies, but we'll figure it out as we go. We got Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving. I think we know after last year, getting this man for 150 spots cheaper in pretty much every draft. We're going back to Bucky Irving again in the second round. Bucks situation for them, promoting from within. Josh Grizzard, I believe, is their new guy. Another young offensive coordinator coming in for them. Seemingly should be having, based on some of the early talk, having a lot of the same principles that Liam Cohen had for the offense. So for Bucky Irving, we saw him distance himself from the backfield last year. We saw that offense be good enough. That's one of the teams I'm willing to make the same bet. I frankly wasn't on the Bucks quite as much last year. But this year, though, having seen what we saw, I think kind of carrying the Bucks being a team that is going to be valuable this year. Maybe you want to have Chris Godwin back with him being a free agent and also coming off the catastrophic injuries and all that. But I think the Bucks will be good. And I really think more than anything, Bucky Irving quietly putting up 1,500 yards in his rookie year. Again, with having about half the workload, I'm willing to take that bet in the second round pretty easily. First 2025 stream for me. Good luck this year. Excited to get some info and insight throughout the year. I appreciate it. We'll see what the schedule is. Right now, I'm expecting kind of a return to a semi-schedule next week while I wait to figure out what my deal is with Underdog for the year. But stay tuned here. Of course, subscribe to the notification bell. And this week as well, Super Bowl content coming up on Friday and Sunday. So we'll do the same must plays on Friday, final takes on Sunday morning, and then we'll close out the regular season or the full season of the NFL. We got a tight end here, Trey McBride, who I feel like pretty comfortable taking him and Brock Bowers in the early rounds here. So our start right now, Bucky Irving, Puka Nacua, Trey McBride. Not as wide receiver dominant as it has been in years past for me, but still certainly players I believe in pretty strongly at this point of things. And I would say too, guys that I feel are projectable, that we feel have good roles that started the year as well as they could. While Puka Nacua being injured, maybe not so much. Closed the year though, about as well as they could. But really these guys to me, I feel like my main focus of the big board is like what's projectable, what are players that I think showed me something last year that I want to have carry over into this season. And I would say like, guys like Puka, guys like Bucky, guys like Trey McBride, maybe not as fun of a click as clicking Ashton Jeanty. I think that's the better move right now on the big board. I think that's really the main thing I was trying to get to when I kind of distracted myself. Talk about what I put in the Discord. I really think this year that, and it's the case every big board, but like in previous years, there was pathways to real playing time for a lot of rookies coming in. And last year we saw like there were so many wide receivers that went first round, second round, third round, fourth round. Everybody thinks they're all going to get such great spots. Great Jermaine Burton, great Jalen Polk situations that people are talking about all year. Not so much me, but people are certainly expecting those to be winning outcomes for those guys. You didn't see those guys play. And I think that's really the main thing here, where this class overall is probably worse top to bottom, maybe, depth of mediocrity, I think, in some positions, but really not good. I don't expect all these guys to get great landing spots. The guys who get great draft capital expect to get a shot. The QBs, I still expect to start. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, I think go. If I had to guess, Shedeur to the Browns, Cam Ward to the Giants, even though I think Cam Ward's a better player, I think Shedeur is going to fit the West Coast principles they want to bring a little bit more. But we'll see how that process goes. But those guys are probably going to start. Besides that, like in terms of RB, I think you get almost definitely Ashton Jeanty getting top first half of the first round draft capital, and he starts from close to day one. Maybe, honestly, he can still go to like a Dallas and compete with a Rico Dowdle, which I think would not be great for him, but like he's going to be some form of starter, I think, no matter what. Marion Hampton, I think, can step into a starting role, but he runs like a 4.5. Like, I don't think he's going to test so well as an athlete. People are going to go out of their way to get him. Caleb Johnson, same thing, power back, but not fast. The fast back Travion Henderson didn't do as much as his teammate Quinshon Judkins, for Ohio State. To hate that name. One of my least favorite names to look at in the draft process. And also one of my least favorite players too is Judkins right now. But he had a good college football playoff game as well. So maybe that makes people off of Travion Henderson. But Henderson's like 4.3 fast. Like that's the kind of guy you expect to rise up. But he also didn't perform that well. So like I think that's a lot of the issue with this class. And I think you've kind of compared it in the past to a guy a couple of years ago that some of you might not remember, but was really like the talk of the town for a few pockets of best ball drafters out there. Zach Evans was a guy who people thought was going to come out of Ole Miss and be like somebody that matters, that does some things for the Rams. And then all of a sudden he didn't play and wasn't on the roster and went in the fifth round. I think you have kind of a lot of guys more like that than you have Bucky Irvings, and you have guys like Gibbs, certainly a similar small back, but like whatever early draft capital back you want to point to, or guys that were just so good in college and had an easy pathway to get in the field. I just think it comes down, like people are saying in the chat, comes down to more landing spot than anything. And the big board right now, people are not drafting for landing spots. They're drafting just because it's a fun name to click. And I think that's a real flaw. I honestly think the big board right now is one of the more mispriced drafts. And then frankly, people approaching it too, where they're loading up on rookies. And it's like rookies too, where it's like, it's not even guys I expect to get first round draft capital. I think people are approaching this as poorly as they have a big board in any year as well. But that's my take from 11 drafts in right now, only one of which has been on stream. I partner with Underdog and Drafters, but we're trying to work with both, but trying to get a better deal from Underdog right now. Because basically I don't want to do another, frankly, like on-stream drafts. I enjoy drafting. I enjoy talking about football with you guys. The weirdness around the drafting, people needed to force on a drafts and whatever. And just, the grind of it too. Like I did 200 drafts on stream last year. I don't want to do that haul again unless I'm compensated for it. So that's really the main thing. I've talked about on stream before though. So if you missed it, that's your catcher-upper. But for right, we'll still do some drafts no matter what. But my goal is to get back to doing 5 a week and have that be valued appropriately. But we'll see how that looks in the next few weeks. 0-1-1-1 build here. So we got 1 RB, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end. Need to start making it up a wide receiver. Devontae Smith, I don't mind conceptually. Rashee Rice, I think, is going to miss way too much time for this ADP. And frankly, is again coming into a new situation for the Chiefs where I think Worthy's taking a lot of that role. Romo Dunze, it does feel to me more like time goes on. Keenan Allen, one of the few players not present at the Ben Johnson press conference. I think we're probably going to see Keenan Allen go to a contender kind of team. Dunze come back in with an improved role for Chicago. So I'll take the shot on Dunze here. I like Tet McMillan as well. PFF is really high on Tet McMillan. They have him as their number 3 overall prospect. I don't think he's that good, but I do think he's the best rookie receiver here. I think he would fit well if Vegas doesn't take an Ashton Jeanty type. I think he'd fit well there. Carolina as a more true alpha receiver would be a nice fit if they could somehow get up and get him. McMillan at 46, I think appropriately priced here, but not a must-have. Average RES for a Pro Bowl RB is a 9. Bucky Irving's a 2.8. Rashad White's a 9.9. RB's one position. I'm willing to buy low in RES. I mean, you should be willing to buy low in RES for most things in general. It doesn't matter like how good of a performer this guy was. You have other things that are unique. For Bucky, he still missed tackles at a crazy rate at Oregon. Still had a high EPA per touch. Like that's what would make me want to be on him more. But the RES testing for me did spook me on him a little bit last year. And same thing for Troy Franklin. And Troy Franklin one certainly went the correct way if you did fade him. Even though he had some outlier days down the home stretch. 0-1-2-1 here. Metcalf, I don't mind. Kind of feels like Ryan Grubb got fired, at least in part because of not being able to feed DK Metcalf enough. Not that Clint Kubiak did any better feeding his outside receiver. I do think Olave is a little bit underpriced still. He's coming up in ADP, though. I'm going to take the shot at Olave. I really strongly believe, and obviously you shouldn't be surprised by it. I think we're going to get Kellen Moore going to the Saints. He kind of demurred when asked the question during the Super Bowl press coverage so far. I think he's going to go there. I think he's going to reshape the offense. I think Chris Olave, I don't worry about concussion stuff, as I'm sure some of you guys are like, oh, he's got so many concussions. Whatever. Anybody can get concussions. Anybody can have crippling ones that end their career. It's unfortunate. That's football. But Olave getting an upgrade in the Saints offense, taking him and Shaheed, I think it'd be okay. The issue is I really don't want to die on the hill of late Derek Carr again, but I do think he gets a glow up in a Kellen Moore offense as well. Big believer in Chris Olave at this ADP range. I think people view it as if I hit this rookie, I win all the money when they don't realize 8% of the field still have that player. That is true. And I think too, we talked about a lot on stream last year. I thought Jaden Daniels last year was at an advantageous ADP for a rookie because he has the upside. Candidly, I feel the same way about Cam Ward and to a lesser extent, Shedeur Sanders this year. I think those guys' ADPs are a little bit too cheap because people just aren't as high on them. But for the RBs, it's for an Omarion Hampton, who I think is good and can be a bell cow back, I don't know that he's going to be a bell day one. I don't think that's the most likely outcome. And where you're drafting him ahead of a guy like Aaron Jones, who's old, yes, but Aaron Jones is going to get signed by a free agent spot that needs him really bad, or go back to Minnesota, which we know is theoretically a good spot. We saw him do well with last year and get a good red zone role and good opportunity overall. So why would you not take Aaron Jones, 20 spots later than Omarion Hampton? And I think that's it. It's just And I've seen it on Twitter too. Like a lot of people on Twitter I see posting on my For You page is just a fucking albatross. It's like I really don't enjoy going on Twitter at all anymore. But I see like the people complaining about the big board and Eagles, who I think is a nice enough guy. I don't know him that well personally, but he's like doing this dramatic thing of I'm not drafting anymore. And he's like, I'm back drafting, but I don't enjoy it. And then like a lot of people are replying to him like, I also don't enjoy drafting anymore. And it's like, I think they're looking for something that makes it fun, and clicking O'Marion Hampton at 58 makes it fun. And it's like, nah, like for the big board, you're better off being projectable. Like I think the reason I had 3 finalists this past year, only putting in 60 something entries, was because I drafted players, rookies that were greatly undervalued for what they were likely to get based on a situation, you know, where they got on the field pretty early. And then I also got players that were cheap. Like I got some Joe Mixons. I got a little bit of Derrick Henry's in part of my advancing teams. Like I got some stuff there that was just underpriced. People were like, he's a free agent. Whoa, what is it going to happen? He might not be in the league. It's what? Like, no, this guy's going to be in the league. Like NFL teams don't want to play young guys unless they have to. Like that's really the reality of things for the most part. But anyway, sort of like all of the takes you're getting that have been bubbling in my brain for the last couple weeks of doing these drafts off stream. But like, I really just, I don't think it's a good, I don't think it's a good draft ecosystem right now for a lot of people personally. The people have been doing too many drafts. They don't know what they're doing. They also got confused by what actually won last year and what did well. I think this year is probably the most like fragile situation for best ball, at least since I've been doing it with, maxing out and going in, which I guess would be BBM. BBM 2 is when I got my first real taste of doing this stuff. BBM 3 is when I maxed out. So, we're talking again, like 3-4 years, 4 cycles later, 4 slates later. I think people now just don't know. I don't think people know what they're doing. That's really it from my observation so far. But granted, it's only been 11 drafts I've seen. I'm sure there's really smart people. Drafted with off stream at night with Justin Herzig, and he did his usual bullshit. Like he's trying to stack, he's trying to soak up all the value. Like there are people out there that are still drafting intelligently, but I think a lot of the quote unquote, I'll say the middle class of drafting, I think people just don't know what to do. And I also feel too, and again, I'm not trying to be like Mr. Smartest in the room guy. I also feel like a lot of the draft analysis, since I've been doing this for a few years now, of like doing it on my own, getting my prep done early and then seeing what other people say. A lot of it is all just parroting back what other people say. Like the amount of like PR work that people are doing for the RB class, we were like, because they heard somebody say, this is one of the deepest RB classes ever. It's going to be one of the best. And it's like one person said that and everybody in the fucking universe parrots it. And it's like, there's probably legit 3 starters in this class in year 1 and a couple guys that are going to tantalize you and you're not going to get there. That'd be my guess. But anyway, 0-1-3-1 build here. Adding more at receiver would be good. Taking projectable players would also be good. James Conner had a really solid role. Trey Benson did nothing to displace him. And Arizona definitely was going the wrong way last year, but we got a little bit of a bet on Arizona with Trey McBride. We'll go James Conner here. So the team right now, 0-2-3-1. We're still trying to hit generally getting 5 receivers through, top 100 picks. So we're sticking with that principle, but a little bit faster and looser on the wide receiver ADPs with where they are. We got Bucky Irving, James Conner, Puka Nacua, Romo Dunze, Chris Olave, Trey McBride is the team so far. So very balanced build so far, pushing QB down the pike a little bit, which I'm happy to do. Everyone's forcing you to like Daxton Dart. You should, because he's probably one QB that actually can rise. Go off. I am going off. No, I find myself doing what you just said. Too many rookies getting pockets where I dislike veterans, so just take rookie. Yeah, because it's the shiny new thing. Last year, rookies were very underpriced at the beginning of the contest. Not so much the case this year. That is true. And Travis Hunter might not even play on offense. So even for him, like there's like some teams don't want to do that. Like that's been what been reported already. So I still think Travis Hunter, you take some shots on. I haven't personally done it yet because the ADP seems to be hard to pin down. Yeah, I don't know. I personally just, and this is probably not good by me either, because I'm not here giving you my takes or whatever every day like I was last year. But I really do feel like, I don't know, I think the industry is leading a lot of people astray. It's really how I feel. I think it's been the case I've felt about the industry in a lot of different ways in general, in DFS and betting and best ball, but like I haven't felt this pronouncedly. So Tennessee, I do think it's a QB glow up. I think they're very live to take a Jackson Dart in round 2, beginning of round 2. So I'm going to go Calvin Ridley here. Think he gets an improvement. Still under contract. Still, we're going to be stuck on Tennessee no matter what. And in this spot, he was going the same basic ADP last year with DeAndre Hopkins there. Maybe they bring another receiver. I'd certainly expect them to bring somebody in who's better than a Nick Westbrook-Akine. But Calvin Ridley is your alpha guy right now. So him going at 80, I don't know, doesn't make the most sense to me. Don't want more than 2 rookie RBs or wide receivers per team. That's fair. RB hype driving up rookies ADP. And that's the thing too, is like this RB class is really not better than the one 2 years ago. Last year, I think we had a few more winners than people thought, but I would view last year's class not dissimilar. You just have a lot of names that people know who like got decent volume in college, but weren't great with it. Or like, weren't great, but maybe we're still okay. But I don't know, even like Caleb Johnson. Like I like Caleb Johnson. I think visually he's a more appealing runner when you watch the film. But analytically, like he was, let me check out his numbers here. Caleb Johnson last year, 21% stuffed run rate. So your power back is getting stuffed 1/5 of the time. The worst rate in the class. That's not good. You had a 25% avoided tackle rate. That's okay. Probably comes out like 12 to 15% in the pros based on how that usually works. Plus EPA rusher at 0.134. But it's like he's not great. Like Jeanty is great. He had 29 opportunities a game at a 0.19 EPA per rush. Saw an 8-man box 7 times a game, had a positive EPA there. Only got stuffed 15% of the time. 33% avoided tackle rate for Jeanty. Like he looks like the best backs that we've had before. Guys like Caleb Johnson look like every other back. I don't know. Really just not sold on some of the core principles and it makes me feel crazy because like I see the stuff and I'm like, what? Like, and I really question too, because like I can tell for the most part, like who's doing real prep, who's not. Like I see people post this stuff and I'm like, did you actually do the prep? Or like it really just throws me for a loop. But anyway, point being is I really strongly believe projectable stuff, checking spot track, just looking up contract details for any player that comes up. Like, is this guy really a cut risk? Like people go like, oh, Evan Ingram, like Brenton Strange is a big guy to watch out for. Evan Ingram's like not under an easy cut for a contract this year. He's probably going to be back. Same thing for Christian Kirk. Like people are not drafting those guys because they think they're going to go somewhere else or just like fall off the roster. And it's like, no, they're paying them enough money. You probably have one more year of Liam Cohen trying to salvage those guys. So like you take a shot at them. I would say that's honestly the most important thing I do. Literally when I do a draft on my phone, I'm just looking up so-and-so spot track over and over and over again for any player that comes up. Just to familiarize yourself with who's a free agent, who's not, who's a cut risk, who's not. I think that's more important than just taking every rookie. But anyway. I think that's a fair one. I see a lot of Dwayne McBrides. I mean, Dwayne McBride played low competition for sure. So, that was your ding. But I agree. Like, Dwayne McBride did not have bad numbers. And these guys that's actually a dead-on assessment. Do feel like that looks a lot like Dwayne McBride. And I agree with you on that. Rashid Shaheed in round 7. I mean, he was one of the better receivers in football last year when he did play. So, I don't think there's an issue with that. I certainly thought I could get Shaheed at 93 here, but not the case today. ADP yet? Yeah, he went early. He went really early for that guy. What are you going to do? People also just think they could throw ADP out the window now. And it's like, no, you still kind of want to be tethered to markets. Whatever. There's going to be lots to talk about this best ball season. I really would love it if Underdog comes to the table and see the money I want so I can do drafts every day again and not feel like I'm just giving up EV for nothing. But yeah, I think it's going to be a weird best ball season. It's really my early lean from the big board. It's like they price shit as aggressively as they could. But even then, people were taking Luke Lachey in like the 150s because that was where the ADP was. And it's like, you didn't even look this guy up once and see that he wasn't actually good in college at all. We have a 0-2-4-1 here. I think Darnell Mooney is a little bit of a tier break here at receiver. This is where you start to get to some lesser guys, some guys with real question marks. Do love Aaron Jones, though, at a decreased ADP. And again, he fits the thesis here of like just getting some projectable guys. And Aaron Jones goes back to Minnesota. Great. He goes somewhere else. They're going to pay him because they think he'll be a part of them winning a championship kind of thing. So we'll take Aaron Jones here. Bucky Irving, James Conner, Aaron Jones at RB. Puka Nacua, Romo Dunze, Chris Olave, Calvin Ridley at receiver. Trey McBride at tight end. And I feel okay about where we are right now. Not big on pre-drafts, so seeing 4-round price up on sheet is a little shocking. You can have him. He was great. And again, you would hope that with a new offense coming in with Kellen Moore and maybe an improvement, in terms of the QB play, whether it be Derek Carr or somebody else coming in. Trey Harris going at 98. Love Trey Harris. That is too steep of a price tag for Trey Harris. I would take Matthew Golden over him, who played pretty well. Not crazy about Matthew Golden either, though, but he does feel... I mean, the thing is, like, Cooper Kupp, no matter where he goes, his ADP is going to come up. Golden, I think, is okay. But I don't know. I'm going Kupp. I think I'm going Kupp. So the former Rams receivers, I guess still technically they are the Rams receivers. We got him here. Cooper Kupp is wide receiver 5, though. I would feel the same way about Keenan Allen in this range. Again, I love Trey Harris. I would love him to be a commander instead of them signing whoever in free agency, which I don't think they're really going to do at receiver. I'd rather than bring in Trey Harris and develop him as a real number 2 guy who can get open in space, not going to be a burner, but will run some good routes, will get some good possessions going. That said, like Trey Harris shouldn't go ahead of Cooper Kupp. Like, I just don't think that's right. I don't think he should go near Josh Downs. Josh Downs is going to be in a good situation with them trotting out AR for 1 more year, probably bringing in some competition for him. But like, that's going to be the outlay for Indianapolis. I don't know. Again, I could point these out 100 times over. I think gambling has also influenced this is 100% a lock to happen type crowd. Also fair. Got like 20% Jones so far myself. Love the price. I agree. Way too cheap. Thoughts on 49er receivers? They're all pretty close in ADP. I don't really have a favorite pick. You can take your shots on whoever there. I think Jennings is overpriced. There's not really a guarantee they move on from Debo. Debo's probably a little bit cheap compared to where he was going last year. But I also I don't want to take the shot at him after he was awful. I wasn't a big Niners drafter this past season anyway, because their prices were too high. Now it's like, I don't really think any of them are priced well enough for the great uncertainty you have. Like a Purdy, take him with whoever, but I don't know. Probably not a priority for me. Sheed was outscoring Olave pre-injury, yes. Let's see. Nick Lachey over Luke Lachey, also true. Love Ricky Pearsall's price, aka Rizzy P. I think they're all functionally at this point very similar plays. Like Ayuk, like the thing for me is like, what are the upsides? What are the downsides? So Ayuk's coming off catastrophic knee injury, coming back in. Also didn't get targeted well before that, even though the separation score stuff from fantasy points would lead you to believe that he was still functionally the same player, but he didn't perform like the same player. Debo, a lot of rumors about them moving on from him or having to move on from him. Now it seems like practically they don't necessarily have to do that, but maybe they'll want to. But if he's there, you have then a 4-man kind of crowded wide receiver core. And any of them could spike, so I wouldn't be mad about taking any of them. But like, I just don't know that. I don't know if it's responsible to really have a lean because I don't think there's a lean to be had. Functionally, the lean should be the younger players. So like, it should be you're defaulting to Ricky Pearsall and Ayuk, who just got paid as well and is fairly young. But like Jennings, has a contract of decent note. But honestly, I didn't think he was a play last year. I think he kind of got lucky with where he ended up because all the injuries and all that. So I don't know. Round 9 Mims, the worst pick on the board? I don't think so. He spiked enough times last year. It just comes down to construction. Like, are you taking Marvin Mims with Xavier Worthy and Calvin Ridley and, I don't know, like a bunch of guys who are only going to hit on the occasional deep balls and that's their day? Or are you taking Marvin Mims as like your 5th receiver when you have projectable guys who are going to be getting you 8 to 10 targets a game and have decent touchdown equity? I think that's where that's where I would try to view it more. But I think Mims showed enough last year. It's a little bit of a lofty price tag. I agree. And I do expect Troy Franklin to move up a little bit more this year. It's going to be tough because Sutton's still there. Sutton's not a risk of being cut. I guess they could trade him, but they kind of had that opportunity last year and didn't do it instead. So sign him to more money. So like, I think that's the bigger issue for Mims is that you get other guys there, even Vele, another year of him. He probably takes a little bit more away. But Mims is like the only guy they have right now is going to be a downfield explosive target. And it'd be stupid for them to add like a Tez Johnson type when you already have that in Mims. So I think Mims is okay. I think it's a lofty price tag for sure, but he had decent days down the home stretch, so not mad at it. We have a 0-3-5-1 here. No obvious correlation at this point. Run of QB here. This guy, all right, he has Caleb, so that's fine. He has DJ Moore with Caleb. We can live with that. Travis Hunter would give us some more receiver upside. Bateman, I don't mind. But again, Keenan Allen, I do think had a pretty good year last year. As I've said enough times on stream, you look at the numbers if you want to really verify it yourself. Keenan Allen was the best receiver in that Chicago receiver core last year. So for me at this point, I think Keenan Allen undervalued, much like Cooper Kupp. Getting them both here as my wide receivers 4 and 5, I feel pretty good about when I do kind of go a little bit lighter at receiver overall. Actually, no, at 5 and 6, even better. Again, Keenan Allen is just priced here because people think like he doesn't have a job right now and somebody's not going to get a job. I'm pretty confident there's going to be a job for one of the best slot receivers who's been in football for a decade from teams that probably want somebody to come in and give them a shot to jump over the hump. Frankly, he's the kind of guy too that like if Tampa Bay and Godwin don't come to terms, Keenan Allen coming there for cheap and getting that boost, that same role that Godwin got last year, wouldn't be the craziest thing. So I don't think Keenan's going back to the Chargers. I don't think that ended well. All right. One of the worst picks on the board is Sutton. Unlikely to be back in Denver. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I think he's going to be back in Denver. I think he showed exactly what they wanted him to last year. 0361 here. Nothing we have to grab yet in terms of QB that we could start to set some backdoor stuff up. Tank Bigsby, not a bad click. I think Rico Dowdle's a little bit undervalued here. If you don't get Ashton Jeanty going to Dallas, you're probably getting Dowdle back there. Dowdle just kept racking up 100-yard days down the home stretch for Dallas last year, and that was not a good Dallas team. That's not the kind of situation I expect Rico Dowdle to be putting up 100-yard days. So I am team Rico Dowdle quite a bit here. And yeah, I am also team Sutton. I think Sutton is going to be a fixture of the team. Again, his spot track. And obviously you could trade a guy like you would look at, Cooper Kupp's spot track and think the Rams wouldn't want to move off from him based on some of the dead cap, but they're clearly going to. He's got a $13 million base, and I think this is the money that was added on last year as well. So 13 mil this year. Doesn't say what the penalty is here. The cap hit would be 20 mil. 13 mil of dead cap if you cut him. I just don't see why you'd move on from Sutton there. And given how he played last year, like he was clearly the best target for Knicks. So yeah, I am much more team Sutton. I think he's appropriately priced. If he got traded, he'd probably come up. So yeah. But anyway, guys, this is today's draft stream, probably the only one this week. We will be doing, again, Super Bowl content on Friday and Sunday here. So please show some love, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. We're slowing down a little bit here, which I knew was going to be the risk of me just not spamming drafts the second the big board open. But frankly, my heart is getting there. But, I want to take my time. I want to make sure that I'm compensated accordingly for it. So you guys know the deal. I'm sure you've seen enough professional athletes being the same way. Just trying to make sure I get my money here. But of course, go check out Underdog too. Want to show them some last minute resolve here. Use promo code SPLASH Underdog. Link in the description as well for $1,000 in deposit match from Underdog. And of course, if you haven't drafted in the big board before, it's a great draft. Last year I put in under 70 entries. I think it was 68 was my final haul. Got 3 finalists out of that. Had over a 33% advance rate. I crushed the big board last year in large part because of what we talked about through this video. People just don't grasp this tournament correctly, I don't think. And that was me too. Like I spammed the shit out of rookies last year. Like I had so much Brian Thomas, so much Jaden Daniels, so much Brock Bowers in those teams, so much Marshawn Lloyd in those teams. But really it is a draft where if you haven't done pre-draft a lot and you stick to kind of not getting too wrapped up in Devin Neal here, who's like, he should be priced where Bucky Irving was last year because he has similar kind of drawbacks. Just don't fall into the traps. You'll do well in the big board. Just don't fall into the rookie traps. Love rookies. That's that. Oh, Adam's back with some quotes. Remember, a friend in need is a pest. Thank you for that. Like Sutton last year, but didn't click as much as I should. He went all around the good RB picks. Yeah, all those great guys there. Javonte Williams also free agent this year too. And yeah, no contract because they renegotiated last year because he was holding out, and basically they converted some money, gave him more money. But I don't think extended the deal. I think just gave more money. Quentin Johnson at 136. This guy's spamming QBs. They correlate? Slim Cheddar here is at least correlating. Well, way too much QB in a row there, but you can follow his heart. All right. We've got 4 RBs, 6 wide receivers here. I think another RB wouldn't be crazy. I'm going to go Bryce Young here, though. I think at this point we need a QB. Kind of boxed out on QB here from not getting Caleb Williams. We could still do Stafford. We could still do Levis, but I don't think that's a good one. Could still do Derek Carr for free. But I really don't want to do quite as much total dog shit QB situations. I feel like I boxed myself into that a little bit too much last year. And it could have been okay if I had gotten the right QBs instead of like it always being Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, Will Levis. Those guys were always a part of it for me. So I'm like still a little bit leery about going crazy on late QBs again this year. It's really the main thing. Doing a lot of 3-6-8 threes. Sure. That's probably not right from not too far off what I've been doing either. QB dries up fast rounds 9 to 10. It does, but again, like any QB is still a playable QB. It's just like, and as I talked about, I'm pretty comfortable taking Cam Ward, especially if I get Giants. Cam Ward looks good. And we got the player I wanted on the way back anyway. Here's Leggett for wide receiver 7. RB's getting a little bit ugly now, but frankly, I don't know what Rachaad White does for me here. I don't know what Samson does for me. And I would take Leggett over Jalen Coker. People are really steaming up Jalen Coker. In my mind, there's not a world where Jalen Coker should be going right next to Leggett. I get the concept, like another young guy. Maybe he's a young guy that's better. But Leggett's like a legit athlete with first-round draft capital who took a little while to catch on in college. Granted, had some different factors there with injuries and the COVID year and whatever. I also, and I'm not trying to be rude, Leggett comes off kind of dumb. Like, he's like very likable. Like, he comes off like a country bumpkin in the most stereotypical way, which is me probably not being fair. But he comes off like maybe not the sharpest guy. So give him another year to catch up to speed. But like, I just don't buy the Jalen Coker thing. Like, Holy Cross, nobody receiver. Carolina probably adds another guy. And who do you think they're going to sit out of a group with Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Xavier Leggett, and some other receiver they acquire for decent draft capital or, you know, contract capital? They're going to sit the guy from Holy Cross who was undrafted last year. So like, Jalen Coker is just, the meme of him is too much. And that's how I feel about that. So we're taking Leggett here. The Cokeheads teed him up. They didn't need. Sam Darnold to Calvin Ridley. I'm torn with Darnold. I feel like Darnold to me feels like the Vegas guy. Only my main thought. Tennessee wouldn't be crazy. In my mind, it's Tennessee and Jackson Dart. I think there'd be a good fit for him for how Brian Callahan seems to want to attack things. So, but that's me. But my biases would be Cam Ward to Giants, Shador to Browns, or somebody else that's more of a timing accuracy-based team. But the Browns, I think, are going to be that with the shift back to Kevin Stefanski calling plays there in the West Coast offense stuff. Would think that Jackson Dart fits well for a downfield throwing, you know, Joe Burrow facsimile QB. And I would also think, too, if you bring in Jackson Dart beginning of the second round, he's probably going to immediately displace Will Levis, would be my thought, because like anything could displace Will Levis at this point. But, you know, like, we'll see. Obviously, these are all guesses in, you know, early February here, and things are going to move. Rather go unstacked scrambling QB early than get left with bottom 1-3 stack QB production. Depends who the QB is. But he's the best at some advanced stat thing on like 15, you know, Coker. I mean, look, Coker, I'll look up Coker's numbers. Let's see if there's anything that would wow me here. Got to reopen my NFL data sheet here because I did an update for Sequoia, the new Mac shit. And of course, it closes everything. And there goes Coker. I'd take Coker maybe if he came back to me, but all right, Coker last year. Let's find the values. All right, Coker, 0.44 EPA per target. That's good. 18% target per out run. That's not that good. 1.9 EPA on deep plays, 0.4 targets a game of 20 plus air yards. It's not bad, but it's not a big enough sample size. The main thing for me is like, I just don't think there's a guarantee he has a role, but whatever. We're on the clock here. Other QBs could be in play. We could certainly do the Sam Darnold thing. Shador, I think, will give me some points. But let's go Darnold. We're pretty confident he's going to get a starting job. Don't think he's going to make the 160 mil he would have made otherwise, but he probably goes. I think in this build, we would hope he goes to the Rams or Tennessee. Probably can't go to New Orleans. I think we take Derek Carr on the seam for free later on. Derek Carr, another guy who, even though people would love the Saints to move on, they are kind of tied to Derek Carr for now. But anyway, Coker, yeah, Coker doesn't look bad. Like if Coker were a guy who got drafted in the top 3 rounds last year, I'd be like, yeah, watch this guy for the future. But for Carolina, I just find it hard to believe they just roll in and go like, yeah, Jalen Coker, we're going to build around him. I just don't think that's likely. Not a great pocket here for RB. I do love Jalen Royals. I will say he is one guy here. I just don't think it's priced correctly. I think everybody is off of him, and they're not going to be happy about that. I'm going to go Roshan here, though, just because I think we need one more RB. So a 2-5-7-1 build here. We got Bryce Young, Sam Darnold is our QBs. Going to get a third. We got Bucky Irving, James Conner, Aaron Jones, Rico Dowdle, Roshan Johnson, projectable up top here. For Chicago, we run the risk of them bringing in somebody to be the new alpha RB, which I think is a decent possibility. Frankly, Chicago getting an Ashton Jeanty if they could. Where do they pick? I think they'd have to trade up. But I do think Chicago getting Jeanty would be pretty logical. Please don't autoplay the video, ESPN. All right. Where are we at? Raiders. The Bears are at 10. So they would need the Raiders to pass on Jeanty and nobody to trade up in front of them. I think that's a good spot. So that's your risk for a guy like Roshan. But then the flip side would be like if Roshan doesn't get anybody coming in above him, he might be your David Montgomery type here in that one. So I would say for Roshan here, I think he's a little bit undervalued right now, but with some decent risk of being displaced. At 170, though, it just doesn't matter that much. It's not like you're paying the Tyler Algier price tag from a couple years ago where he was going like 60s, 70s, 80s, and then you bring in Bijan. It's like, oh, shit, he's now not a play at all or not nearly a play. You're so calm and I completely panic. Well, I'm used to doing this on stream. But also, I didn't notice the clock ticking that much. But I appreciate the sentiment, Kelly. Callahan of Tennessee is a McVay disciple like O'Connell, and also a disciple of his dad who does commit to the run too. Offensive line guru, Bill Callahan, who I do know through a friend of a friend. Chip Kelly to the Raiders, bullish to Bowers. Probably a lot of screens. I know there's one, I think Matt Harmon from Reception posted about when Chip Kelly was at Philadelphia. He used Jordan Matthews in a role, like a big slot role that would make a lot of sense for Brock Bowers. I think, though, like the offense, and I haven't seen enough film to know or enough data on Ohio State's offense, and maybe that's something I'll do because I am curious about it. For everything I saw, they got the most out of every player for Ohio State in that offense last year. Granted, Ohio State always has players that I think look pretty good analytically, I guess, besides Garrett Wilson. But in general, like he got the most out of all those guys. So I'm curious to see how Chip Kelly's evolved. But point being, when he was in Philly, he basically had a role for Jordan Matthews. If you guys remember that name, he's still technically in the league. I think was playing for Carolina for part of this year. Basically, like used him the same way you would use a Brock Bowers, where it's a lot of throws the line of scrimmage, kind of screen stuff. So if he brings that in, that'd be good for Brock for sure. But I don't know. Like I worry still about the Pete Carroll of it all. He has always been weird about using multiple tight ends, and who knows. 2571 here. I think we'd use some tight end depth. There are some good late tight ends as well. Still could use more at RB. I like Harold Fannin, though. He's coming down on ADP. He's really the only tight end. I know Tyler Warren's going to get good draft capital, but as I've talked about, I think Tyler Warren is, in my opinion, fancy version of Ben Sinnott. He's going to get better draft capital, but I don't even know he's going to test as like a much better athlete. Harold Fannin, at least to me, looks like a legit weapon at tight end. Had some nice Senior Bowl plays as well. Not going to be a good inline blocker, but if you're drafting him, you're drafting him for the unique stuff that he can bring to the table. So Harold Fannin will be our tight end here. And again, I really don't want to get burned Sinnott style again, which that was the situation last year. Guy was second round draft capital, graded out pretty well. People make whatever fullback jokes they wanted. You just didn't see the field because of Zach Ertz. For any of these rookie tight ends, that's your risk. It's like they just don't get on the field because somebody will block better. Somebody will do the basic kind of getting open the chains things better. So that's sort of where I'd worry about a Harold Fannin. But like if you look at his film and you draft him, you know what you're getting, and you're hopefully going to do it pretty creatively. Will Shipley at 194. It's contingent value there. All right, 2572 here. So this is a back. It's not going to be very sexy at all, but I do think he's the kind of guy that people are sleeping on too much this time of year. Coming off the injury last year, Nick Chubb was not great by any stretch, but he didn't look, not like dissimilar from other vets who were also not very good. Chubb last year, 10% avoided tackle rates. So we're talking about that Joe Mixon territory between 10 to 15%. They still tried to give him an intended touch on 50% of his snaps, 13 rushes per game, 2.3 of which were inside the red zone, 1.3 inside the 10-yard line. If he goes to a better team and becomes their hammerback, he's going to do well for himself. He's never going to be old Nick Chubb, but he's free at pick 200 here. And he's going against guys like, I don't mind Justice Hill, like I think he probably repeats the same role he had last year, but he's going against Kareem Hunt, who probably doesn't have a job next year, I would think. Like he got 1 year and done. Giddens, who I don't even think is really a prospect. RJ Harvey's probably more of a prospect, and I don't even think he's really a prospect. Like just taking guys that, I don't know. I just don't think that Nick Chubb's out of the league. He's being drafted like he's out of the league. And I'm not, and I'm the furthest thing from the old RB defender. Everything we just saw from the league, though, was just them being willing to go like, yeah, let's pay Joe Mixon. Let's play Saquon. Let's like they didn't do anything that people are, I don't know, that would make you not believe in taking a guy like Nick Chubb in the 150s, 160s. I don't know. The downside risk I get. Guys in this range, though, him, Estime, Marshawn Lloyd, Javonte Williams probably goes somewhere as like a number 2 back next year, would be my guess. Jordan Mason, I don't know what you're getting there. He probably got passed by Garendo, and you need CMC to be out again anyway. So Jordan Mason, I really don't, you're getting just pure contingent value there. Woody Marks played at USC and was the definition of just the guy. Much like many of these RBs, he has less juice than RJ Harvey. So like, why take Woody Marks here? Besides, that's where the ADP was given initially. No, he wouldn't have. No, he wouldn't have. DJ Giddens is an okay player, but nothing special. 21% avoided tackle rate, 0.08 EPA per target, gets stuffed 17% of the time, which is not good. Negative 0.2 EPA per pass play, which is actively not good. Trust me when I tell you, I look at the numbers myself and I compare them year to year. He doesn't look like anybody that I would have liked last year. He looks like the definition of just a guy. Many of these RBs do. Can't be more clear about it. But hey, maybe I'm wrong about it. That's certainly a possibility here. I have to say so far, and granted last year you heard me talk on stream where I felt pretty naked with how much I love Bucky Irving, how much I love Jay Daniels, to a lesser extent, how much I love Marshawn Lloyd. And that was one of my biggest stands that didn't work out. So it wasn't all roses, but last year I really felt like I was on an island for some of those guys, compared to at least the content creators out there. This year I feel like I'm on an island where I just don't think the RBs are as special. Like DJ Giddens is just another person. He literally is nothing where I'd look at it and go he's great at one thing. The guys that I like are at least great at one thing and ideally great at multiple things. But it's absolutely right. And also I didn't like Jalen Wright last year either, for the record. He's in a Mickey Mouse offense, much like Dylan Sampson. People are trying to steam up this year too. 2672. Using a third tight end here, I think even with the elite tight end Trey McBride, I don't have an issue with in a 20-round draft. Jatavian Sanders showed enough for me last year. Probably out of inertia, gets an improved tight end job with your Tommy Tremble class of guys, I presume, getting closer to being phased off the roster. So we'll take Jatavian Sanders here. Team so far is a 2-6-7-3. We got Bryce Young, Sam Darnold at QB. At RB, we have Bucky Irving, James Conner, Aaron Jones, Rico Dowdle, Marshawn Lloyd, Nick Chubb. We have Puka Nacua, Romo Dunze, Chris Olave, Calvin Ridley, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Xavier Leggett. And at a tight end, we have Trey McBride, Harold Fant, and Jatavian Sanders. And now we have our third QB coming right back to us, Derek Carr. So a 3-6-7-3 build right now. Theoretically stacking Darnold with Calvin Ridley. Theoretically stacking Derek Carr. I mean, most likely actually stacking Derek Carr with Chris Olave. Theoretically stacking Bryce Young. I'm saying this like he's going to move. Bryce Young's not going to move. But stacking him with Xavier Leggett, Jatavian Sanders. There we go. The way you feel about the Tennessee offense, how I feel about the Ole Miss offense. What is Mickey Mouse about the Ole Miss offense? They dropped back, they ran shotgun and snaps under center and threw the ball a lot. A Mickey Mouse offense is when you split out 5 receivers and have your RB running against a 4-man front, which is what Jalen Wright had last year and is what Dylan Sampson had this year. Both guys are fast, but neither guy did anything in a real game environment. So that's how I feel about that. Been 50 minutes. We might have different definitions of fast, but yeah. So unless you're just built to last, I guess. But anyway, guys, if you can hit that like button and subscribe button here, it goes a long way for me here. I'm just one guy here trying to keep this afloat, trying to turn these 2 little channels of mine into a business while also showing you drafts, giving you the best takes that I have possibly. And look, sometimes they're uncomfortable for me to have the takes where I'm telling you I feel like the industry is missing something. But I also think too, again, seeing Justin Herzig draft and all that stuff, he's drafting the way that I think you should draft. You're just drafting stacks and projectable players and players you know are going to be back in similar spots with situations that we liked last year. That's what you should be doing instead of drafting Jarquez Hunter in the 19th round personally. That's what I believe. How do you feel about Scadaboo? Very talented, but not a good enough athlete. Doesn't feel like the kind of guy that gets the draft pedigree. That said, high avoided tackle rate guy, 31%, high EPA per run. Then that's the issue is I think for Scadaboo, he's like a worse version of Bucky Irving to me in terms of he produced well, good avoided tackle rate guy, good in the pass game. Really have questions about the athleticism and in a way too that I don't personally get the sense he's as good as Bucky, but if you're looking for a Bucky in the class, Devin Neal and I would say Scadaboo are probably the closest to that. But Scadaboo is priced so much higher. Scadaboo's going 40 spots higher than he probably should. I'm just not confident he gets a role. Bucky Irving got kind of the ideal situation where he was going against a really inefficient back and he fit all the check boxes that the Bucks wanted last year and talked about wanting with Rachaad White, not getting explosive plays, not missing tackles and all that. He gave them exactly the remedy for what they were looking for. Scadaboo would need to do that for somebody else, and I'm not sold that he is that, but that's it. All right. Got one more pick coming up here. Scadaboo reminds you of mine. No way. Those are completely different players. That's a bizarre one. He's also Michael Turner was also a fridge at running back. He was, short, but he was stocky as shit. Scadaboo is small. It's not Deuce Vaughn small, so I don't want to misplace that, but I don't know. I don't see that one. I think Scadaboo, less ballerina like Bucky Irving is still what I feel about him. But he's too expensive is also what I feel about him. 2673 here, waiting for this guy to make his fucking pick. Please. You need to take the whole clock in round 20. Taking Ricky White. People love taking this guy, Ricky White. Somebody must have mentioned him on a podcast. I've seen him go in every big board draft in the 20th round lately. Elijah Arroyo, if we want to do a fourth tight end, he did get some Senior Bowl steam, but didn't get targets at all in college. I think it's another receiver here. This is an ugly pocket for receiver. I'll take Jalen Polk for free. All right, we got another draft going, guys. I didn't want you guys in it. Slow rolled it out here, but one more draft. We'll get it out here because I haven't done enough drafts. I know I owe you guys, so strap in here. One more big board, then we'll call it a day. Thick legs and people bounce off them. I don't think people bounce off of. You're watching different Scadaboo film than I am. He misses tackles. People don't bounce off of him. Thoughts on Ollie Gordon? He's just a guy. Another just a guy. He looks like Tank Bigsby to me coming out. All right, so we're up here. CeeDee Lamb on the board. I'm low on Dallas. I think eventually when people catch up with what they're doing at coaching right now, I think they're going to be low on it too. I'm going to take Nico Collins here, who I do like as your last remaining target for the Texans. Tank Dell likely out, if not all of next year, the vast majority of next year. Stephon Diggs, a free agent. They could bring him back for cheap, you would think, but he honestly kind of fucked himself with redoing his contract there. Yeah, I don't know. Nico Collins, to me, no matter what, in a good situation, he's flashed more than enough. I feel pretty confident about him at this point. Ricky White's a dominator rating guy, I think, but the context of where and who he played, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, like a Nick Nash, I think would be another one of those types. But whatever. Let's see, Ricky White. Trying to look up Ricky White's numbers here. Earned a lot of targets, 38% target per out run. More air yards than yards per game, which is not what we want to see here. He had 50 more air yards than he actually actualized. 0.258 EPA per target is okay, but you'd want it to be higher in college. You know, Ricky White also just looks like a dude, besides the target earning, which is pretty good. But yeah, Ricky White, don't think it's it for me. UNLV, 22 years old, 6'1", 190. Literally just the guy. Thank you. So fresh and so clean at drafting. I appreciate the sentiment here. Appreciate your measured takes. Feel like a lot of the creators overhype late round picks. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's my flaw. Maybe that's that's why I fucking stay where I am for the most part. But yeah, like I don't know. I think for gambling, it's really important to have a read on what median outcomes are. And this is from somebody too that like I bought Marvin Harrison above the field at the 1-2 turn last year. So like again, I'm not immune to these things being wrong, but at least that was like great draft capital guy, earned a shitload of targets. Just didn't work out for him in year one. I'd still take that shot again in year two. And that's sort of the point, is like it's really hard, even if you're coming in as like one of the cleaner prospects besides the RAS testing, which we didn't get. It's hard to get that role. Like he played the outside receiver from the moment that he stepped on the field and got drafted. And he just still didn't earn a ton of targets like he did in college. And I'm sure it'll get a little bit better for him this year. I'm sure it'll get a little better for him next year. But that's what rookies are. And that's like the big thing. We get a shot at Ashton Jeanty here. I'm going to take it because there's not much Jeanty for me in these drafts lately at pick 18. So an Ashton Jeanty, Nico Collins start. Pretty fun here. I like that. Take more Marv this year than last year. I agree. I was famously chasing that Puka. Well, I was chasing it. I didn't get it. So it worked out fine for me. But honestly, I don't think Marvin Harrison was necessarily the thing killing you in teams last year. It's probably more the way you drafted around Harrison, because he spiked a few times. But yeah, look, I don't know. Every year is different for sure. But even last year, you got to think too, like what did we have in terms of first round wide receivers? Like Keon Coleman didn't really hit. Leggett didn't really hit. Worthy hit late, did not hit early. Look at the first round wide receivers from 2024. Yeah, Jeanty has been going reliably in the 1-2 turn. So last year in the first round, we had Harrison, Neighbors, who both hit to some extent. I would say Neighbors more so. Harrison spiked a few times. Odunze, I would say, didn't really hit. Brian Thomas hit in a huge way. Worthy hit down the home stretch. Pearsall had a couple okay games. I would still say, I don't know that I would call him a hit. Leggett, not a hit. And Keon Coleman was the start of round 2. That's right. But again, you're talking about in that class, 7 guys who went in the first round, half of them hit, and that's kind of stretching it. Lameek, I cannot tell you enough. I think you're really wrong. I really think you're giving a lot of wrong vibes. I think you're parroting stuff from other people here, and I don't get the sense that you're correct. But I hope it works out for you, whatever you're doing, man. I just like, I don't know what you're looking at that would tell you that. Really don't. I look at the same data flat every year. I can tell you I don't feel that way. I presume he would mean, I'm sure he can explain himself. I presume he would mean in terms of like prospects that have more upside and more floor, which I just don't think is also the case. All right, we're up again here. Got the same 0-1-1 build we had last time. I do like Trey McBride again as that elite tight end, just solving that issue up top. Do you like DJ Moore though? We got Harrison last draft, or we got Odunze last draft. Still wouldn't mind Harrison either here, but I'll go DJ Moore. Again, don't think that Keenan Allen's back in Chicago no matter what at this point, or at least it seems unlikely to me. DJ Moore getting the shot of getting some more slot targets would be good for him. Getting a shot of that Amon-Ra role. Also a chance here that it just becomes a piece that Ben Johnson doesn't love. That's certainly a possibility. But yeah. There were 8. I'm looking at a list right now that says that has 7. Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, Thomas, Worthy, Pearsall, Leggett. And then did McConkey and Keon Coleman go second round? I mean, I'll show you the screen I'm looking at. It's NBC Bay Area. Pretty sure it's 7. Anyway, whatever. It's a better class because Jeanty's in it. Yes, I agree. Jeanty is your closest to a Bijan we've had. That's it, though. It's functionally it. And this is what Lameek meant for cleaner, more upside, more floor, less potential cut candidates. I don't know. Guys, being on a roster is not everything. Ask Trey Benson how it works for you to be on a roster and have okay draft capital. People like Trey Benson last year, too. I did not. And I don't think I feel bad about that one. Jeanty to me comes in as a better, more complete prospect than Gibbs. I would agree. He's a better rusher day one. Similar escapability, which is what we're looking for. Again, the stickiest things for guys, college to pros, volume they accumulate, and their avoided tackle rate, the two biggest things. And Jeanty has both of those in spades. And I think he should be better as a pass catcher too. Boise State didn't use him like that, but like they should have. In the pros, he will, I would guess, be used that way, though he's got to hold up in pass pro for sure. People misconstrue Coleman and Ladd as they went. The snap started day two. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Honestly, I thought Keon went in the first round, but I had to remind myself that he went at the beginning of the second. All right. 0-1-2-0 here. We've got our Jeanty. We've got Nico. We've got DJ Moore. Let's see what What's Up Watson picks here. Then we got flexibility. Mixon would make sense for this team. I'd prefer Worthy, though. I was really hoping that guy didn't take Worthy. Worthy, to me, showed a lot down the home stretch. I also think it wouldn't be crazy next year to see Kansas City push the offense a little bit more. So I feel pretty good about Worthy as my wide receiver 3 here. We have a Nico, Ashton Jeanty, DJ Moore, Worthy start. I do think if Mixon had come back here, it'd be a tough choice because we kind of have that bet on Houston anyway. Mixon's going to be back in Houston with another probably committed run approach here based on who they hired. Houston, I got to remind myself of the offensive coordinator's name. Nick Haley, who's coming over as the Rams tight end guy, also comes from the Patriots lineage as well. So kind of think they're hiring another guy who's going to run the ball a lot. And they're probably going to hope runs the ball more creatively, I guess, than Bobby Slowick did. But if I had to guess, Houston's going to be another run forward environment. So I have no issue with Mixon. Mixon, it feels like, is one of the guys who falls in every draft. If he had fallen to me, I wouldn't have loved the construction of 2 wide receivers, 2 RBs in the beginning here. But I would have had a hard time not taking Mixon for that reason. The top 5 RBs would have had a Brooks. No, they wouldn't have. They absolutely wouldn't have. Absolutely wouldn't have. I'm telling you, like I can look at the analytics. If you're a paying member of the channel, you can compare how these guys did overall in terms of the EPA metrics, in terms of everything, the counting stats and all of that year to year. And you can tell me that those guys don't look better if you look that up. It's really just a lack of knowledge, I think, by people out there, and they're parroting stuff they heard. And I'm not trying to say this to disrespect Lameek, who's doing the best he can and defend the hill that he's on. But like, I'm really confident, Lameek, that you need to look into this stuff more. But hey, look, whatever. I'll die on the hill. I'll die on the hill. Because of the ACL, but that didn't stop him from getting drafted highly. You're telling me, like, with where Brooks got drafted, these guys would have to go in the first round to be going higher. So, like, they're not going to go higher than Brooks. Like, the only guy's going to go higher than Brooks is probably Jeanty. You have a faint shot at Caleb Johnson, but I'm really not buying that because I just don't think he's more than a plotter. I don't know, man. Is Wright a worse prospect than Sampson? Because the way people talked about him last year, I don't think that was the case. People fucking loved Jalen Wright last year and thought because he ran fast in a straight line that he was going to be the dude. Was hoping Chuba would come back. Unfortunately, he does not. Decent pocket, though, for wide receiver or RB here. Alvin Kamara will give us a little bit more of a projection if Jeanty gets stuck in a 2-man backfield. Hampton, I just think is overpriced for a guy who's not going to RAS test that well. Addison, suspension. Pickens, possibly getting traded. Don't mind him. But I'm going to go Kamara here. So if you're not a Caleb guy, then who are you in on? Because that's one of the guys that people seem to think. Lameek, man, I got to tell you. I got to tell you. I'm not buying it. Here's PFF's big board that they put out yesterday. I just don't know how you could possibly be high in this RB class and not high on Caleb Johnson, who is like Film Bro and Football Bro's favorite player. But I don't know why I argue with people I don't even know them. So that's my flaw, I suppose. All right, I'm pulling up this PFF big board. And they had some shit on here I really disagreed with. Wait, this isn't it. They have one where you could sort by positions, and that's not the article I'm looking for. Hold on. Where the fuck are their ranks? I hate PFF's websites so much. They change shit for no fucking reason sometimes. This is free agent rankings. I also like O'Marion. He still is not going to be a first rounder. It's very unlikely to be a first rounder. He's not fast enough. He's a 4.55 guy. I mean, he might run a 4.5, but he's likely a 4.55 guy. And he's just, I mean, he's good. I like you're making me like critique guys I don't want. But the point is like it's just not a good price tag. Like if you could take Kenneth Walker, who seemingly the coach got fired because of not using Kenneth Walker enough last year, or O'Marion Hampton, like I would take Kenneth Walker. That's at O'Marion Hampton now at 66 with our other options being Travion Henderson or Tyrone Tracy, who probably gets competition in. I could take Hampton here if I wanted. Do you think we need a fourth receiver, though? I do think Cleveland, if they get Cam Ward, it would be a glow up for Judy. If they get Shador, I think he would feed Judy well enough in more of a PPR way. To go Jerry Judy as wide receiver 4. I do not love Jerry Judy for the record, but he is Cleveland's #1 receiver. And that's basically it. Now, you probably talked about it 5 times. Tyler Warren thoughts. I said it like in the last stream. I think he's just fancy Ben Sinnott. He'll get drafted better, but I don't know there's any guarantee. If he gets good draft capital, he should see the field faster than Ben Sinnott did. But like, I know, look, I love Sinnott, so I guess I shouldn't critique Tyler Warren for that. But like, people have him going top 5. I'm not really sold on that. He seems more like a violent blocker than an elite pass catcher in terms of the target earning and all of that. Let me pull up my tight end data. Yeah, 32% target per out run, which is a little bit more than where Sinnott was. Avoided tackle rate's a little bit lower than him. Low air yards per target, so he is getting kind of catch and run plays like a Brock Bowers. It's not bad. I don't think Warren's a bad prospect. I think he's just overpriced, like every rookie seems to be. Love Trey Benson last year. My bags went to shit when he went to Arizona behind Connor. Yeah, I did not love Trey Benson last year. I thought his best outcome was being your third down back for a team because he just didn't grade out to me as a great rusher. And that was, with FSU being on paper a good offense. So, yeah, I wasn't in on Benson. I mean, the only guys I liked last year really, in terms of the lesser drafted guys or lower drafted guys, were probably Bucky and Lloyd. I missed on Tracy, which I think was a flaw in my process. I just didn't have him in early enough, and I didn't adapt to that. But I also think Tracy now, I like what Tracy did last year. I don't think there's a guarantee they don't bring in another back above him. Like the Giants to me seem like an O'Marion Hampton team, which would not be good for him or Tyrone Tracy. Yeah, I mean, Benny's summing it up here. Every rookie's overpriced is the whole crux of the big board, except for Jalen Royals, who runs 4 threes and is 6 foot, and people just don't know him because he went to Utah State. 0-2-4-0 here is the build. Mahomes falling a little bit further at this point. Don't think it'd be crazy to take him. I'm going to go Mahomes. Not going to get a lot of Mahomes in general, but this big of an ADP discount, 13 picks after ADP when we have Xavier Worthy, I can live with it. So a 1-2-4-0. We got Mahomes, Jeanty, Kamara, Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Jerry Judy. No tight ends yet, but a 1-2-4-0 build right now. That's a good point. Tracy wasn't in the big board, so that's part of why I probably didn't adapt enough. Because he actually graded out fairly well in a lot of the stuff I look at. He missed tackles well, at okay volume, all that. People mocking Warren top 10 when Barrows didn't go top 10 feels very wrong. It just depends on the positional need and if those players or those teams in the top 10, if they don't want a defensive player and they need a tight end. But I agree, talent-wise, he shouldn't go higher than Brock. Thoughts on Jack Besh? Heard some interesting things. Also, think people might just want to make him into Puka, and no one's going to be Puka. He graded out really well for me. Savion Williams is a better athlete who's on the same team, and he outperformed him in every metric that I would look at. The issue is he's not going to be that fast, so he's just kind of a guy who played well at the Senior Bowl, and we've seen that happen enough times and it not really matter that I wouldn't overreact to it. But I think Besh is talented. I would need to see really good draft capital and an open pathway. Like, he would need to go to the Bengals with T. Higgins leaving. And then it's like, all right, Jack Besh, if he gets on the field there, he's going to align with Burrow perfectly and be exactly where Burrow wants him to be and do all that shit right. Then you take the shot. But I mean, much like people were saying earlier in the video in the chat, I think a lot of these guys are landing spot dependent, and most rookies are going to be landing spot dependent. But Jack Besh is like really, because he's just not going to be a good enough athlete. Tracy Air lifted out of practice and Aircast and back of practice. Yeah, that was not my fave. That was one where I was like, shit, yes, I got this right. And then he spiked as much as any rookie RB did last year, besides Bucky, I guess. I'd say almost there's some out of two that work or latch on to. Okay, sure. I think the Singletary love was a bit higher last year and just jaded the view on Tracy a little bit, but we all make mistakes. Yeah, it's true. They paid Singletary, and I thought he would get at least the majority role there for the year. That didn't happen. Do you think Mahomes could look better because he should have Worthy, Hollywood, and Rice to throw to in 25? I mean, you won't have Rice for the early part of the year no matter what, and then you have the suspension. I think he's not going to have Rice for half the year is my guess, which is why you shouldn't take Rice at 45 right now, I don't think. But besides that, I think the main thing is that I think the Chiefs kind of hear the criticism. They've talked so much about being, the evil team this year. I think that they're definitely going to try to make things a little more fun for themselves. Here's a tough spot. I have Mahomes. This would be logical, I think, to take Kelsey at this point normally, but we have another 10-pick discount on Hawkinson. So still believe scooping value in these drafts is important, even though people throw shit out the window. So I'm taking Hawkinson here. We'll get leverage on Kelsey teams with Hawkinson. Let's give the team a read here. 1, 2, 4, 1. We've got Mahomes, Ashton Jeanty. My first share, I think, of Jeanty so far. Alvin Kamara, Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy, TJ Hawkinson. Is it right now? Hollywood's a free agent. Good. There was somebody in chat, I think was it the draft I did last week, who was like, yeah, somebody's going to sign Hollywood for big money. And it's like, he couldn't get big money this year coming off a year in which he had a role. Now he's done nothing on another team besides be hurt all year. You think he's going to get a big contract now? I don't know. I think he'd be best off coming back to the Chiefs for cheap, unless he has like a monster Super Bowl, which is possible. Godwin, I think, was the overall wide receiver 1. I think he was ahead of Chase at that point. Rice at 45 or Godwin at 65 makes absolutely no sense. They both shouldn't be priced where they are. Godwin's going to have a hard time coming back, and if he does come back, he's probably not coming back to the same situation he had last year, whether it's on the Bucks or somewhere else. And Rice is going to miss at least 4 games, I would think, for the ACL, probably 4 to 8, or the PCL/LCL, which is functionally similar recovery time. While ATN at 97, is that guy reaching that crazy, or has ATN come up that much? He's reaching 10s. ATN has come up 40 spots so far on the big board. I was taking some ATN because he was free. If he's going with these guys, you're now paying the full price for Liam Cohen fixing things. But yeah, I don't know. Like Godwin and Rice, like, because the injury stuff, like they should be probably priced more like the 100 range, I would think. That's that. Christian Watson, yeah, not being picked is being picked correctly, though his injury happened very late, obviously, so the chances of him playing next year are really low. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't think you need to fade every injured guy, and certainly, if they're priced for the injury fully, then do it. But like Godwin is priced for like, oh, he's going to recover from this injury to some extent, but then he's going to be back to being pretty good, and I don't think that's correct either. Like I loved Godwin last year, wish I had more of him, but well, obviously in hindsight I don't. When he was doing well, wished I had more of him. But like, you have 2 real questions there of him going back and then what his recovery is and all that. I don't recall seeing that even once. I think you just made that up, to be honest. 1, 2, 4, 1 here. Not a great wide receiver pocket unless you're going to reach up a little bit. Dobbins is a free agent. Would think he gets a good landing spot with how he played this year. Really would love to get another receiver in, but Diggs coming off an ACL, I also don't really want. I don't mind Ramondre either, and I've been taking a good amount of Ramondre, but I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins. Why would you avoid the Jags backfield with what we just saw from Liam Cohen last year? Like, legitimate question. I don't think you're playing it the right way if that's the case. I think ATN's a good pick. I liked him better when he wasn't being steamed up 40 spots is the main thing for me. But that said, 97, him going around some riskier guys like Dobbins is a free agent, Swift, who could be moved on from because maybe Ben Johnson doesn't like him that much from the Detroit stint. Charbonnet, who's technically a backup here. Maybe the price tag's not unfair, but like ATN and Bigsby are both going to get a shot at being, Bucky and Rashad White. It's just what do they do with it? So I don't feel that way at all. I feel the exact opposite way. Yeah, there you go. Jags are one of very few teams that I think. I mean, Saints, I feel that way too. They're starting to get priced up a little bit more now. But the Jags are a team where it's like just adapting to good coaching outcomes is a really big part of this. Liam Cohen is a good coaching outcome for the Jags. Like, he's probably going to fix Trevor Lawrence to whatever extent that needs to be done. He's probably going to create rushing production with a well-run offense. This offense was better than the Dave Canales offense. Like, and that surprised me because I was a big Dave Canales guy. But yeah, I don't see it the same way. 1-3-4-1 here. We got a pretty projectable team. Keon Coleman should be better in year 2. But I'll take the shot on Travis Hunter. I've not done it yet. Kind of a draft from just getting guys. I haven't gotten a lot of in the big board so far. Because Jeanty never aligns with my pick. I never get Mahomes anyway, ever. But a 13-pick discount when I have Worthy makes sense. So right now we have a 1-3-5-1 team. Got Patrick Mahomes, Ashton Jeanty, Alvin Kamara, J.K. Dobbins, Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Hunter, and a tight end, TJ Hawkinson. So the receiver room, I would like to be better. I do think there's a world where Hunter goes to Cleveland, even though it seems like they're getting linked to QB a little bit more. The early whispers I got from Cleveland were that they were not going to take a rookie there, and we're going to try to do it with free agency at QB instead. Because you have enough cheap guys you can get. Like if the Jets move on from Rodgers, that's one option. Cousins obviously be the one I think they've been linked to the most. That would make the most sense to me. But he also is a great business guy, so maybe he wouldn't come cheap. But if you get, them taking Travis Hunter at 2 and going with another QB, maybe I luck it to a Cleveland double here. No, we weren't on Kadarius Toney last. It was only you, and that did not go well. That was one of the most for our guy Jaden here, who does a good job, has built some good teams. I've seen him before. You really lost it last year. Lost it with that one. The Kadarius Toney pick was one of the worst chat callouts of the entire year. And there were some bad ones, but that's one that I remember, which means it's particularly bad. Today he'll always have outperforming Kyle Pitts in college, right? He'll always have that one game for the Giants. What's that? Just years ago, Liam Cohen was the OC of Kentucky. Now is an NFL head coach. Crazy. He politicked well. And he also had an NFL pedigree before it, which helps. Kendall Milton was yours, I think. Who didn't even come close to an NFL roster. Pretty tough. All right, we got Trey Harris coming back. Tank Bigsby for the bet on Jacksonville we just talked about, which I wouldn't mind. Stroud here. I don't love the hires for Houston. I like Trey Harris. I feel like at a certain point I should get Trey Harris. So let's just do that here. Let's take Trey Harris. Team right now, 1-3-6-1. Mahomes, Jeanty, Kamara, J.K. Dobbins. Receiver, we have Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Hunter, and Trey Harris. So we got more projectable guys here. We could add some rookies that I think have a shot at upside. TJ Hawkinson at tight end. That's that. Not a bad team. Was hoping Stroud would come back, but this guy had to get Stroud with only having 5 or whatever. I can't worry about what people do in these drafts. A.T. Perry, that's a tough one. Made sense, but yeah. I think Kadarius Toney had a catch, right? He had a catch and run for Cleveland at some point. Well, that's fair. I don't think we outscored him. unless he fumbled. Yeah, I mean, my worst take last year was Marshawn Lloyd, but that was one I don't feel that bad about. Like, I feel bad about the outcome of it because I do think if he had been even the barest minimum of competency, he would have made the difference. He was -2. Oh shit, I didn't know that. Well, that's fun fact by Nolan then. Yeah, like Lloyd was my biggest miss, and it was really two. That was bad process by me that I just didn't dial him down at all and just kind of kept taking him at a similar rate. Um, and of course, I'm very confident he'll hit this year relative to whatever that means. But yeah, I don't know. I think my misses were just being out on guys. Like I was out on the Bucks offense more than I should have been because I just didn't love what Liam Cohen did at Kentucky, but it was at Kentucky, so that's that. But I think my biggest thing is ruling teams out too early, and in particular, I talked about it during the year. But like getting things right about teams where I thought the Bengals were in for a weird year was right about that, but I took less Bengals as a result, and I shouldn't have. Being right about the Jets not being this world beater team, but still not getting Jets in ways that are advantageous, like that also was maybe not the best thing. I think for me, my goal for the year is just to not write off teams as fully as I am prone to do. But some of it worked out. So I don't know. Like it's kind of a risk reward thing of like when you change your process and you had okay results, like how that works. Lamika's just giving me every take I don't like, but I appreciate you asking the question. I feel pretty good about Trey Harris. I think the issue is that he's not fast, so he kind of like we were talking about the RBs, where I don't think he's going to have great RAS testing and get a big bump up as a result. This is also not a great pocket for RBs, huh? I need an RB desperately. I mean, Jerome Ford right now, technically the Cleveland lead back. We'll take that shot on Jerome Ford. So he'll be our fourth RB in. Yeah, Trey Harris is basically another 4-5-ish guy. Was one of the best producers in terms of like most metrics, earned targets as well as anybody. He had 39% target per out run rate last year, less air yards than actual yards. So anything like you're going to say about a merchant, if you have more realized yards and air yards, like it's going to be something that you should weigh positively. 0.64 EPA per target, the best in the class besides Jack Besh. Was good out wide too. Got 8.5 targets again, good for a 0.53 EPA. Trey Harris is only not good in the red zone, which maybe is an underlying issue, but I like Trey Harris a lot. I don't think there is such a thing as a Lane Kiffin merchant. Lane Kiffin has not always made great players. Like I don't know where this thing came from. Like I know our guy Adam in chat's perpetuating too. Like that Ole Miss offense. Like what did the Ole Miss offense do besides drop back and pass? But I don't know. I still haven't heard one person tell me what the gimmicky things are that they did so much last year. Don't mean Spags, but there are constant people to miss entire teams because the team stinks and they get talked about like they won't gain a yard all season. That's just poor process. No, that's fair. I think for me, I look at more like I think this team is going to greatly underperform how people view them. And I honestly, I think I tend to be right on those. But that still doesn't mean that they're going to be bad teams. Like really the biggest thing I think that goes hand in hand the most would be like, is this offense's defense, like the defense, that they're going to be playing with all year long, is that defense shitty enough? This offense is going to have to pass no matter what. And then the offense is theoretically good enough to do that. I think that was like, as much as Liam Cohen was like a big part of the Bucs' success, a big part of the success is that defense was dog shit and just gave up production to everybody. And obviously they dropped back a lot still within that prism and did stuff. But like really what it came down to was like the Bucs D couldn't do shit. For Jaden Daniels, Commanders D couldn't do shit. So like he had to do a whole lot more. I think that's still something that would be, in mind for me. This guy taking a lot of QBs here. Is he at least correlating? No, he is not. He's got one stack. All right, good for him. People love going to this run of QBs here, and I don't think it's actually a good process to take 2-3 QBs in a row in a draft. We have a 1-4-6-1 here. I mean, honestly, now we've got this bet on Hawkinson. I could probably try to push this guy around, but with the QB hunger in this range, I'm going to take JJ McCarthy, our presumptive starter from Minnesota. Would like him more if I had a bet on one more Minnesota pass catcher, but Hawkinson is enough at this point. Let's give this team a read. We now have a 2-4-6-1. We have Patrick Mahomes, J.J. McCarthy, Ashton Jeanty, Alvin Kamara, J.K. Dobbins, Jerome Ford. We've got Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy. Travis Hunter, my first share of him. I think this ADP is fair enough. You hope he goes somewhere. They're going to use him on both sides of the ball because he's good. Trey Harris and TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, what are you talking about here? What do we do with ATN in Denver worth the late round pick or go with a rookie? I have no idea what you're saying on any aspects here. Are you saying estimate? Is that it? I would guess that next year they add somebody, probably a vet, which could come with risk. But I would think it's estimate, McLaughlin, Watson, and something else. I don't think there's anything linking ATN to Denver, but I assume you meant estimate. Trey Harris is also injured this year. Missed all their big games, kind of sucked. Well, for him to have missed games and still have put up the numbers he did, I think it's pretty crazy. Tennessee, Carolina, Chicago, all had useful players, even if, just got to balance them well. That's fair. That's fair. Tennessee had the least useful players, though, I would say. As somebody that was like big enough on Calvin Ridley, he wasn't good. I just answered this. I like Trey Harris. I think he's going to be slow and not get enough draft capital. But I think he would be one of my preferred receivers in the draft overall. He's really one of the few that stood out meaningfully for me. Like Ted McMillan's good enough, but he also had 50 more air yards per game than he had real yards. So a lot of volume there to make it work. Trey Harris was targeted a ton, targeted well enough downfield, 11 yards downfield. He seems like a complete guy to me, but again, he's like too expensive for what he is. That's really the big theme of the video here, is that a lot of these guys are a little bit too expensive for what they are. We've got rookie pocket here. I will take Tyler Algier for the contingent Bijan value and a guy who's got a partial role. Dylan Sampson, another Jalen Wright, in my opinion. Ollie Gordon, another Tank Bigsby, in my opinion. Jalen Wright, another Jalen Wright. But it's a 2-5-6-1 build here. We got Mahomes, McCarthy, Jeanty, Kamara, Dobbins, Ford, Algier. We got Nico, Moore, Worthy, Jeudy, Travis Hunter, Trey Harris, TJ Hawkinson. So we need one more tight end at least, a couple more RBs, a couple more receivers. Probably will take a third QB because of the Mahomes of it all. You got ATN on the brain. That's a curse. But, I think estimate, talked about it a lot in the beginning of the year, or in particular, when we started to see some of the results from guys that last year did not do as well. In particular, Charbonnet, Quentin Johnston. So you guys who I took a good amount their rookie years, and then in year two, you start to see them break out more. I think it's important to not throw the guys out that we liked last year. And Estimate was a guy I liked last year. He didn't hit, but got on the field, saw some opportunities, scored some touchdowns. That's that. Troy Franklin, same thing. I would say for me, not throwing out guys who didn't get there in year one is an important part of the process. So I'm still on board with Estimate for free, yeah. But there's still a shot they bring in somebody else. There could be a cut at RB2 that might appeal to Sean Payton. Chargers might call about ATN. Why? That doesn't seem like the kind of back they'd want at all. You drafting the shit out of Ollie Gordon for the record. More power to you. He was good last year, I think people have said, but if you're a negative EPA rusher in college as big as he is and not doing anything unique, I don't necessarily want to be there. Power backs are one of those traps for me that in the past where like I like guys who run with power, and it never works out. Just never works out with rookies. Guys who played with power in college, that is. We have a 2-5-6-1 here. Jalen Royals is my guy. Really, the one rookie I think people are entirely missing in a draft right now is Jalen Royals. This is, by the way, 1,000% the exact same thing people said for Tank Bigsby coming out of Auburn. That's exactly what people told me. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we need to reconsider Tank Bigsby. And reconsidering him this year was a good plan because he's on a roster. That's that. Tank Bigsby was not worth reconsidering his rookie year. And I think that was the defense. Auburn's offense is so bad. Doesn't matter. You're still going to miss tackles. You're still going to create value relative to whatever the opportunity is. Good players do that no matter what the situation is. And they also don't get meaningfully worse year to year. Packers should trade Jacobs to the Chargers. Yeah, I mean, that'd be a good one. Clear out some time for old Marshawn. I agree. Telling you, the numbers look exactly the same. Just doesn't really, and I'm not saying this to Chung specifically, but like I could care less what you or I see on video. If I see numbers and I'm like, all right, this looks a lot like another guy. And it's one of those things now where I've done this for like 5 years, doing this for, you know, some form of on stream. Like they all start to kind of, you see trends, you see players that look the same. That's why in particular, this RB class, I'm like, this is like a lot of just the guys to me. Because they don't miss tackles a crazy amount. They don't create EPA value above average, more than you'd expect. They get volume for sure, but that's not a guarantee. You're not going to get volume the next level. Ask Marvin Harrison. Got all the volume in the world in the college. Got less than. Obviously, different position, but like, I don't know, man. And or like a guy like Chase Brown. Like Chase Brown was good this year. He got a ton of volume in Illinois. Was not very efficient with it. Didn't do a whole lot in terms of avoided tackle and all that stuff. But, you know, like he got more volume than he probably should. This year he was really good, but he also like all his efficiency stuff off the cliff because he's probably not meant to be a guy getting, 20 plus touches a game. Doesn't mean that he won't get them, but like your perfect world is guys that are like actually good and get 20 touches a game. And I don't think there are a lot of it. It's Jeanty. It's legit. Like in this class, it's Jeanty. And Hampton, I think to a lesser extent, who's not going to probably as good of an athletic profile. And yeah, like, and I could talk myself into Scattaboo. I could talk myself into Harvey, but knowing what I know of how the NFL works, I just don't think those guys get enough draft capital. Because it was fun to stroke ego with. Sure. I don't really know what that means, but sure. I think people just like to flex like they know rookies better or whatever. And I know like Chunk plays a lot of college football DFS, so I'm sure you come by it earnestly. But also too, like, DFS production in college is not one-to-one with NFL production either. I think it comes down to more your underlying abilities and where you land. Harold Fannin goes. So that's now not a tight end option here. Could do Dalton Schultz. People like Jaden Higgins. I also feel like he is kind of just an outside receiver that does nothing special. Really don't love Dalton Schultz, but I think we just got to get, there's better tight ends later, right? Whatever. Just take Dalton Schultz. We've already got 7 receivers, 5 RBs that I feel okay about. I'm just going to get some more volume in tight end. This honestly might be a 4 tight end build for me. But 2572 here, Mahomes and JJ McCarthy here representing KC and Minnesota as their starting QBs, presumably. Ashton Jeanty, Alvin Kamara, J.K. Dobbins, Jerome Ford, Tyler Algier. Wide receiver, we have Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy. Then 3 rookies, all of whom I would give a cosign to varying extents. Travis Hunter, Trey Harris, Jalen Royals. Royals for free here in drafts should be your wide receiver 6, 7, 8 more than you're doing it right now. TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz at tight end. Don't love that group, but I think we're going to add at least 1 more, if not 2. I feel about Whittington with Cup moving on. I don't feel great about him. I think there's an assumption right now. He's not going crazy in ADP, but 15th round is people assuming he's going to come in and take over the Cup role. I don't think that's a guarantee by any stretch. They could really overhaul things here, bring in a better receiver than him, whether it's in the draft or via free agency. So I think he's an okay pick, but I wouldn't make him like a key part of my portfolio. Yeah, Tutu was getting routes, but it was different roles. Take on drafting Cup, I feel okay about it. He's at pick 100. He's going to go up higher when he actually gets in a landing spot. And if he goes somewhere that people like and think there's opportunity at, he's going to go probably in the 60s, 70s. So he and Keenan Allen are just way too underpriced for the old slot receiver kind of category. They're both going to get decent outcomes in free agency no matter what. Or, assuming Cup gets released. I don't think anybody's going to trade for him on his current deal, to be honest. People wanted to the end of last year because it was like playoff time. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. 2572 build here. Still would like to add a little more at RB. Could go Kendre. I don't really mind going both RBs from a team at this point. I'll put my money where my mouth is with Audric Estime. I think he's still got a shot to hit. I think you run a risk with Estime of them bringing in somebody else. Like an Aaron Jones, I do think would make a lot of sense for Denver, where you can kind of absorb your goal line role and your pass game role into one and give him those kind of check down targets they haven't really been sure about who to give him to. But yeah, for Estime, I'll take the shot here. With, I think, him, at the very least, as good of a play as Javonte Williams. Javonte will get the benefit of free agency, but as I said before, I think he's going to go somewhere and be like your number 2 back, or maybe like a vet. Like he'll be the Singletary alongside this year's Tyron Tracy kind of situation. Egbuka in the cup role. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. He's fast, right? I think he runs in the 4.3 range. Yeah, I have him as a 4.3 guy. So him in the slot, getting a mix of 2-2 with Cup would not be crazy. And I agree. Higbee in the 200s. Higbee under contract for another year, and the moment he got back out in the field, they fed him the ball like a monster. And now you have no Cooper Kupp there. I think Higbee is really undervalued as a third tight end. Here he goes to pick 200 of this guy. I think Estime's role is safe. Nobody's role is safe. That would be rule number 1, I think, of every young player, especially for a guy like Sean Payton. But nobody's role is safe. Estime wasn't even playing in the playoffs. Like they phased him back out, so I don't think he's safe. And they'll give him a shot again. And clearly they gave him enough. They liked him enough to give him shots down the stretch. Actually, give him some red zone work and all that. I think your hope is that they don't add another RB, or if they do, it's like not a power back, because then Estime can get the goal line work. But I don't think his role is safe. I don't think he gets cut. I don't think his role is safe. Two, 6, 7, 2 build here. Got 3 more picks left. Definitely a 3 tight end build for me, I feel like. Wouldn't be opposed to a 7th RB. Really, I could do a lot of different shit here. Wan'Dale Robinson's not getting drafted yet, huh? Surprises me. The Giants get Shedeur. Wan'Dale Robinson's going to get a lot of targets. Come on, Watson. I feel like this is always the part where it drags. I had like people using the full clock in the last few rounds should be a crime. It should drop to like a 15-second clock for the last 5 rounds of a draft. There's nothing worse than seeing somebody belabor, like, and then he takes Wan'Dale anyway, or it takes some other asshole that you probably shouldn't take. Yeah, there you go. Wow, you had to take all 30 seconds to think about the guy 25 picks after ADP. We really needed that one. Let's go big boy Troy here. Troy Franklin. Tez Johnson also has been getting steamed up in some rooms. I think we saw him go in the 150s in that last draft. He is very fast, but even smaller than Xavier Worthy. So Tez Johnson, I think appropriately priced here in the 200 range. Wan'Dale's always gotten a lot of targets. That's true. But in particular, for a guy like Shedeur who's going to check it down a shitload, just make some accurate short throws, I think Wan'Dale will be a good benefit for him if he goes to the Giants. But as I've said before, though, I do think it's Abdul Carter, number 1. Think it is number 2. Still think it's Hunter to the Browns. I just don't think they go QB. And I think the Giants get Cam Ward, most likely. But if the Browns go Cam Ward and Shedeur goes 3, like the Giants, I think take a QB at 3 no matter what. I think at this point, Zach Moss coming off a neck injury is probably not somebody to worry about. It's important, I think, to view RBs as like milk. It's kind of it's a moment in time for them. At a certain point, they kind of expire. When you're an older RB and you've been hurt in a serious way, and also you got kind of outplayed by another guy, that's usually the death knell. He can go in somewhere as a depth piece, rather, but he's not really going to be like something that upsets a backfield. Like that's the kind of guy, if you were to get him versus a rookie, then the rookie's probably going to win. At least over the course of a season. Browns go QB, Hunter drops the Patriots, which honestly I don't even think you want. I think you want an offensive lineman for the Patriots, ideally. Which I think they're linked with the most. But yeah, I don't know. The Browns should go Hunter, in my opinion. Go Hunter. Use him. Half the snaps on offense. Honestly, at that point, you can go with Tillman more. and Jeanty again with that group. If you're going to bring in Hunter for half the snaps, maybe have him rotate with Tillman because he's not a slot, no matter what people who don't know better tell you. He played out wide entirely at Colorado. Raiders going Dart would be fun. Look, Dart is I think a game-changing QB. People want to keep doing the Lane Kiffin stuff. Lane Kiffin does not actually make good QBs, even people seem to think that. Juwan Johnson's a free agent who could get a good outcome, and I think I'm going to go that way here. I like Tez Johnson, though. If he were to hang around one more turn of picks, I'd consider taking him next. He's legit fast. He's just super small. If he were a foot taller and that fast, he'd be great. But Tez Johnson, 4.3 speed guy, 32% target per out run rate, 0.4 EPA per target, about 25 less air yards than actualized yards. So he did stuff with it. Kind of grades out to me in terms of like how the numbers look. Looks a little bit like Malachi Corley did last year, but better competition level, slightly less targets per out. I think Tez Johnson could be a late flyer guy. Unlike Taj Washington, who ended up being a little bit slower, Tez Johnson's going to be fast. So like he might be your gimmicky deep throw guy anyway. But yeah, I just want Jackson Dart to get a good home no matter what. Dart made a lot of NFL throws this year. Deep ball better than I gave him credit for. Still skeptical, but he's free, so might as well. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know that I'm going to take him in a ton of big board drafts unless I need a third QB late. And even then, honestly, this could be, maybe I'll take Jackson Dart here just for fun if nobody else does. Like, I don't think he has as much direct utility as Bo Nix because Bo Nix, I was really confident about Nix going first round. Dart, I think, can still go second round and be behind somebody. But no, maybe I'm not touting Dart enough. If he's available here, I'll take him. But I like Dart. I think he's more of a big board draft for me, or a BBM draft for me than a big board draft. Tez the same size as Tank Dell. I think he's a little bit smaller. At least maybe the listed size is similar, but I think Tez, unless you got some Senior Bowl thing that I might have missed, but I think he's smaller than pretty much everybody else. But he earned targets like a motherfucker. But so did Troy Franklin at Oregon, and we saw that one his rookie year. All right, Jackson Dart, third QB. Final team here, 3-6-8-3. We got Mahomes, J.J. McCarthy, Jackson Dart is our QB room, which, again, I like Dart. Jeanty, Kamara, Dobbins, Jerome Ford, Tyler Algier, estimate RB. I think with the RB landscape, we could have done a little bit better here, but that said, I think people that took higher rookie RBs, ADPs, are going to be surprised when they find Jerome Ford outscoring them more often than they would like to. Nico Collins, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, Jerry Jeudy. 3 rookies here at receiver with Hunter, Trey Harris, Jalen Royals, and Troy Franklin running it back for year 2 because we learned to not just throw these guys out because they had a bad rookie year. TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Juwan Johnson, who is a tight end free agent. Hopefully he'll get a decent outcome somewhere. I don't know where that would be, but that's that. That's my final team, guys, for today. So 2 big board drafts done. More coming next week. We'll get into a regular cadence next week, no matter what the status is of my Underdog deal, which has to get solved before March anyway. So stay tuned here. Please subscribe down below with the like button if you got value of this video. Look, I can tell you for a fact, I view this rookie class, I view this year in best ball differently than a lot of people. I did last year too, and it ended up being really beneficial to me as I got 3 big board finalists and had, a lot of takes that were right here on stream. Let's hope we can run it back for one more year. But either way, I will do the research as best I can and come back to you guys and explain why I view things like I do. We'll talk about it, and you can agree and disagree. Guys like Lameek are going to clearly love RBs more than I do, and I hope it works out for him. But really, if I had to guess, I'm right. Please do check out our sponsor too, Underdog, $1,000 in bonus cash, promo code SPLASH on there, link in the description. DFS products as well, /betting, Stochastic, 15% off, promo code SPLASH, link down below. And Unabated, $30 off with promo code SPLASH on there. I'll be talking more about Unabated on the NBA stream coming up at Splash Play NBA at 4 p.m. And shouts all the paying members here. There's less. People fucking dropped off the second the season end. Please support the show if you enjoy content like this. Join down below for $4.99. At this point, the perk is really just getting the Discord and being a part of the community. If I put out more stuff like rankings, like team reviews and stuff, it's gonna be a higher price tier. So just keep that in mind because I don't want to mislead you guys here. But this is the main tier if you want to support the show here. It'd be great if everybody who watched the streams just was a paying member because that would make me not negotiate as hard with Underdog, to be honest. That's the deal here. Gamble responsibly, guys, even though it's money time. Back at 4 p.m. on the NBA channel. Check me out there. And otherwise, I'll see you guys on Friday for a Super Bowl video here. The must plays on Friday. The final takes video Sunday a.m. for the Super Bowl. See you guys for one of them, hopefully. Enjoy your days. Good luck. And go all my rookies. Bye.